to continue to receive a quality education during the period of COVID-19, which has brought up tremendous challenges in education for everyone around the world. And it is very important that we know where, first of all, where we're standing in terms of IT appropriation, how we can use these tools to guarantee quality education for all students in the region. But more importantly, what challenges does this situation present to us that can be used to move forward in further appropriation for IT technologies in the region, not just for education, but in terms of general development and social inclusion and education inclusion in the region, because a lot of these challenges can be and are being tackled through the use of information technologies. And so the more we understand the role that IT is playing in social policy and education policy in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean, I believe that this provides us with a better perspective on how we can attend to these specific issues that arise every time, not only with the COVID-19 contingency, but with any kind of contingency or difficulty that arises in these communities in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean, with natural disasters, with many, many issues that arise in the region and that usually impact first in the most needed people and the most needed areas of development, right? So it is 2:05 p.m. EST right now, so we're gonna just jump right in. And I'd like to introduce myself for everyone just joining. My name is Josué Lavandeira. I'm an IP grad in 2018. And I would like to welcome you all to this discussion about IT in education in the context of COVID-19 in Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you all for attending. And let's first welcome our fantastic guests for this discussion. We have Sindey Carolina Bernal. She holds a PhD in inclusive education. She holds a master's degree in information technologies applied to education, a degree in technological design of training, and she's worked in education for 12 years. She's a teacher of the district school Enrique Olaya Herrera and a teacher training coordinator. She works in research, development, and innovation at Del Bosque University. She's had a national and international recognition for creating resources and strategies to support people with disabilities through information technology. She was a finalist this 2020 in the Global Varkey Foundation Teacher of the Year Award. So thank you, Sindey, for joining us. Next, we'll welcome Gaby Gallardo, who currently works as the General Manager of Microsoft for the Public Sector, Health, and Education in the Latin American Caribbean region, creating joint projects with government and different stakeholders to build towards a more inclusive world in the digital transformation. She joined the Microsoft team 3 years ago and has been working in the tech industry for over 25 years. Since 2004, she has devoted her efforts to promote technological and digital inclusion in Latin America, and previously worked as a general manager for Intel in Mexico. Among other roles, her work has been in joint efforts by the private and government sectors to guide growth and development in the region. Welcome, Gaby. And finally, our friend Alessio Hagen. Alessio has 25 years of experience in the IT and telecom industry and has developed public policy projects for Intel for over 10 years in all of the Latin American Caribbean region. He's worked in many projects in China and the Asian market, and a couple of years spent working in scientific research in the Netherlands. He's worked for DELL Technologies for over 11 years now, developing digital inclusion and public policy projects that cover education, health, and national security. He is in charge for the last year of innovation and digital cities, developing the digital agenda for countries like Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, Puerto Rico, El Salvador, Chile, and Peru. Welcome, Alessio. It's a pleasure to have you all three here. So welcome to all of you. Welcome to everyone who's joining us. And welcome for bringing, and thank you for bringing your voices to this amazing community of educators as part of this 2020 IP Alumni Global Conference. I see Fernando Reimers is here, so thank you, Fernando, for joining us. He is the main reason that this conference happens. So thank you for providing an opportunity for educators all over the world to share and to learn from one another. I first want to provide a brief space for each of our guests to provide your perspectives on how the region of Latin America and the Caribbean has changed the dynamics of how people learn and how people communicate in general because of the pandemic of COVID-19 and the health hazard it represents for all of us. So I want to start in order of presentation. So let's start with Sindey, then move on to Gaby, then move on to Alessio, okay? So Sindey, the floor is yours.
Okay. Share my screen, okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Just click on share screen so that I can do it. There it is.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Thank you.
China, and even now, diagnosed with COVID-19 himself and in hospital, he's still peddling this positive picture.
Silence the microphone. Yeah.
Please.
As Trump supporters outside the Wall Street Medical Center has grown this afternoon. They seem to be quite buoyed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Greeting for everyone from my home in Bogota, Colombia. My name is Sindey Carolina Bernal Villamarin. I am teacher of technology and informatics in the Enriqueola Llarrera School and El Bosque University. Today, my presentation is about the different strategies for developing my classes in the context of COVID-19. Can you hear me good?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I will share the following three aspects. Number one, strategies to stay connected. Number two, strategies to stay disconnected without connectivity or devices. And number three, design of digital and analog educational resource. And finally, number four, contact. Number one. In this video, you will see the strategies and ICT tools used to enhance work at home. I told you that I worked with two. Can you hear my video?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Yes? Okay. I am Sindey Carolina Bernal Villamarin from Bogota, Colombia. I greet you all from home. I want to tell you that as a teacher, I decide to put on my country's cheer and put my best foot forward to help my students and all the boys, girls, young and parents. Wondering how? Let me tell you that I worked with two lines. One on 10 is connected for students and parents who are able to connect to the internet. The other line is disconnected to also support students and parents who do not have internet access or do not have computers at home. Let's take a look at the connected strategy. Here, I have developed my virtual classes through Virtual Classroom with Google Classroom that I was already using with my group of students, with video conferencing tools such as Zoom, Meet, and Blackboard Collaborate. I always record the session so that the students who failed to connect can watch the class afterwards. I also create support materials for every topic. I have also learned to use YouTube to do live classes where some teacher friends and I meet to teach classes on all subjects and to give recommendations to the students to make the most of their time. Improve coexist with their families or perhaps have just a chat with them and their families and ask them how they are. The best thing about in this moment is that the opportunity was great to join forces between teachers, the Board of Education, the Ministry of Education, the Institute of Research and Pedagogical Development, IDEP, through a strategy called Learn at Home, where through several media, radio, newspaper, television, and social networks, we were able to reach more people in Colombia.
Una estrategia precisamente ligada con la primera pregunta es aprovecharle una problemática contextual. Era precisamente apoyar la lectoescritura en niñas y jóvenes sordos.
Pues de verdad está impresionante, parece magia al verla usar la aplicación.
Fascinada, la verdad.
The disconnected strategy has physical guides and materials so that you can work at home through challenge, activities and games with the family, and propose the revision strategy where the students teach their parents. Example activities at our students in home.
Ellos son importantes, son los míos y los cuido en casa.
A wonderful musical activity with my students.
Blackbird singing at the Alumni. Take me where wings never fly.
Lots of hope and encouragement to support each other and continue growing in this wonderful adventure of teaching and learning, because this time at home allowed us to discover that together we are stronger. Okay, the next. Continue to develop connected strategy. This is my school. The development is connected strategy with the help of my research project students. Together, we create different digital and analog resources from the universal design of learning, creating histories to enhance reading and writing at home. My school students are creating resources that integrate audio, video, text to stimulate the senses of elementary school children. This example for creation for my students. Use different technological tools and help teachers, students, and parents in home. Use virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality to create different tools and resources of digital and analog technologies. Okay. I will share the projects we have created with my team of students through research to help our inclusion group students. Share with you an example.
We have 77 primary school children and 33
Carolina Bernal Villamarín, Bogotá, Colombia. Enrique Olaya Herrera School, Teacher of Technology and Informatics, Dual Classroom Inclusive EOH.
You know that 50% of the world population have some kind of disability. In Colombia, in 2015, approximately 3 million persons will register on the disability register. In our institution, we have 77 primary school children and 33 secondary school students with disability. Materials and resources for students, teachers, and parents are not available, resulting in the poor academic performance, disciplinary difficulties, family demotivation for education.
Our incubator with grade 10 and 11 students was consolidated through an strategy for the creation of inclusive technological resources and developed pathways and material for students, teachers, of parents of our school in order to expand the goal sustainable development of quality education for all at the level of education.
Creating video games, ACT resources, use of software and hardware, acting as an enhancer of the brain and cognitive skills. Identify the needs and interests of girls, boys, and their families to understand their development and learning process. Create and make strategies to promote the action of children and enhance their development through the design of environments, dispose objects, promote the construction of projects, implement projects that allow the children and their families to experience it. Always reflect on practice. Try to answer questions about the ways in which boys and girls learn and the best ways to promote their development.
The problem in some cases are the resources, materials, and the teacher formation about this difficult in the classroom. We participate in various events to promote the development of our project.
An orthesis of the middle finger of the right hand was designed by Laura Barrero, who has congenital multiple arthrogryposis to improve mobility in manipulating objects and manuscripts.
Microbit kits were created to enhance the development of computational thinking through mini projects to take advantage of microbit and its programming in MakeCode.
Was designed a rugged, material-accessible button to support people, blindness to facilitate moving, orientation through a sound sensor when detecting an object.
For people with blindness, the cane is strengthened using glasses that integrate a sensor to give the information to the person at the proximity of the up to the height of his face, since the cane doesn't reach his detection range.
Currently, a group of 1,000 students is impacted with their parents benefiting from inclusive ICT resources, 50 teachers and 50 students leaders who support classroom construction through our school research hotbed.
I am the inclusive scientist.
I am the inclusive technology.
I am inclusive engineer.
I am the inclusive math.
I am the inclusive communicator.
I'm the inclusive designer.
I'm the inclusive engineer.
I am inclusive technology.
I am the leading inclusive teacher.
Okay. Thank you very much for this space that allows us to share the different strategies that we develop teachers, students, and parents in Colombia. Help teaching learning processes through the use ICT tools in this time at home.
Okay, thank you, Sindey. If you could start, there you go. Let's move on with Gaby. So let's just
can you hear me?
Know a little bit of your perspective on this, Gaby.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I will not present anything with a slide or any tool. I would like to share with you what we see over the past several months in the region and how we are trying to help and how we are teaching and learning what has been a flip upside down during this pandemic months. A lot of the innovation in how we connect online and virtually, we have been from Microsoft trying to include features to our products, empowering the educators and ensuring positive outcomes for the students and for in any environment. And yes, it is important. It is the most important thing. We've been hearing from the educator community. We've been hearing from them that what it is expected for the future. I mean, expected to see hybrid, remote, and new in-person learning models evolving over the next year and beyond next year. So what we also see in that is that schools will need solutions that allow flexible learning models in one central hub, while making the most of connection, whether that's online or in person. And for sure, it is a must to keep a student engaged digitally and students' participation. And this is some of the top challenges they are facing during remote learning. And you also know that in-class learning also needs this kind of engagement. But remotely, it is the double effort or the double challenge. So our mission is to make this like the fewer obstacles and difficult things that the students or the educators need to go through. This moment in history is a turning point for all levels of education and how we learn and how we teach, as I said before. We will not learn in a remote-only context forever, but it is unlikely that the schools, as we knew, will return to how it was before. Online teaching will need to continue. We need this to evolve from recreating the school day to a more flexible approach involving recording and live sessions. And we also need homework help hours and more personalized learning. This is where we are working with the community. Most of the things I like to say when I have this kind of conversation is we are not promoting technology because of the technology per se. The technology is a tool, and we need, as I reinforce, that it could not be an obstacle. It needs to be a tool to make educators and students what they need to do. Educators to teach and students to learn in an easier way. So this new format of learning requires new thinking to create compelling, engaging, and inclusive content to ensure the students' engagement, as I was saying, maintaining the secure digital classroom. One of the things that it is most important for us also is the security that you could have in the digital classroom. And from our perspective, it needs a central hub for this remote and hybrid learning. We are also offering during this time some content to technical and vocational colleges across the world to develop students' digital skills from fundamentals through professional level of drive student employability. We need to drive the student employability. And one of the things that we are proud of is we are doing this through the Global Skills Academy project of the United Nations in response of the COVID. There's a coalition responding to the COVID, and we are part of that. We are also working with the United Nations Institute of Statistics with more than 10 ministries across the globe in Latin America, in Africa, in Central and Eastern Europe to build on the data generated by remote learning to enable a better insight at the Ministry of Education level. We can understand, they would understand, not we, they would understand with the streamline and the reporting, how to monitor the process, how the goals are doing. I mean, one thing that there's a lot of people knows is that in Latin America, there are more than 183K institutions using collaborative tools from Microsoft, in this case, Teams. This is what I know. We have these education institutions also supporting more than, with Teams in more than 175 countries. So it is across the globe. We are also covering like 150 million students with students from the faculty and leaders and teachers that have been actively using our education products. But moving out of the product, while technology is playing a critical role in our response, we know that people transformation is even more significant and are supporting school leaders and teachers' readiness to help with remote learning best practices. We need them to trainings, and our Microsoft Educator Center provides access to courses, learning paths, as well as resources that can be used to support different kind of remote learners or blended remote learners. What else to share with you? We are also entering this new world of learning right now. And we see this having a lasting impact on education as more teachers are using technology to create opportunities that didn't exist before. One thing that if you hear me or listen to me in another sessions, I said that thanks to the technology and the cloud, we could be connected during this time. And again, it is not the technology per se, it is because how we are using the technology. And we need to find different ways of connection. And how we are in Latin America. In Latin America, we have a lot of gaps, different situations or different outlooks depending on the country. And we are seeing that there's an acceleration of governments trying to provide devices to the students, any kind of devices. Nothing in particular, there's not a one device fits all. I mean, there are different kind of devices, different kind of technologies supporting the education through those devices. And one challenge that it is maybe the one that we need to keep on working on is connectivity. We can have connectivity offline, as it was mentioned in the conversation before, but the best experience is to have it online. Because you have access to real-time content or updates. So there's also a communication within the students and within the students and the educators or the professors. So saying that, there's a lot more to do. We have been announcing in February this year a big investment in Mexico. And now we have 7 months after that, we have the first results. It is some laboratories where we are giving access for free to public schools and public universities students to have maybe the first, or not the first, but a deep immersion in technology tools regarding education. And they are testing and at the same time working in real tools for the first time, maybe in some cases, and we have people feel comfortable or not with the technology or with the tools. And coming from the hardware industry in the past, I know that there are a lot of psychologists, anthropologists, a lot of people looking at how we behave with the computers or with any kind of devices. And they are trying to make our life easier in our interaction with them. So that is why in this interaction, seeing how people, how students or educators are working with those devices, they are looking for the best way to make it happen in the future or in the new releases. So with that said, I would like to give the space to Alessio to keep on talking regarding this, and maybe then having a conversation in the session with the Q&A. So thank you for this space, and thank you for being there and listening to this.
Thank you, Gaby. And Alessio, the floor is yours.
Okay, nice to meet you, everyone. I just want to make a comment on the beginning. Thank you, Gaby, and thank you, Sindey, to the conversations in the beginning. 2 weeks ago, we were having a meeting with a journalist in Mexico, and he was asking me why we don't have a global Nobel Prize for teachers, right? Then I said to him that it's impossible to have a Nobel Prize without any teacher behind that Nobel Prize. And I think it's very important to start recognizing that teachers' efforts in the regions, that teachers' perspectives on territories like Latin America. Well, I saw some of the questions coming in the Q&A about the connectivity issues. We have 2 big issues in Latin America. One, of course, is connectivity. Then we need to create environments on that. I will make a comment on it. And the second is the digital skills for the teachers and how we can really help them to prepare to be mentors into this pandemic moment, mentors to the students instead of delivering the teachers and the way it is. And I remember some years ago, I was in an airport in US and I saw a cover of a magazine called Wire. and it has a girl on the top of the cover saying this is the next Steve Jobs, no? And say, okay, Alessio working for DELL, why he's talking about Steve Jobs. Because for me, it was important to see that the girl was a lady. And then when I bought the magazine, I read the article, and inside, she was the best mathematics test in Mexico, in all the country, and her group was the best group in all the Mexican mathematics test. Then the teacher was saying that he was inspired by Sugata Mitra in a TED Talks keynote. Then I went to see TED. I didn't know what TED was at that moment. And I saw Sugata Mitra TED Talks talking about creating self-organized learning environments and how this teacher could change the group, making these challenges and everything. And that group became the best group in Mexico in mathematics. And that girl was the best student in mathematics in Mexico. And I go back to that moment because what we see right now is exactly what we need to create these self-organized or organized learning environments in Latin America with this digital gap inclusion that we have. Then we need to start creating, we have had a lot of projects. Gaby has seen this with Intel in the past in Argentina, buying millions of tablets in Mexico as well, millions of tablets and computers. But what happened with all this technology? Two things, they didn't have a learning environment behind, a personalized learning environment. They didn't know what the students were doing in educational piece with those devices. And the second is we need to make sure that the teachers are supported through this pathway or journey with those digital skills. And then what we're doing right now is trying to create these educational hotspots in Latin America with several ministers of education. It's not just about digital gathering devices, but it's about digital connectivity. Then at least in these offline communities and rural communities, more than 75,000 schools in Latin America in rural areas and without connectivity. Then we have started to create more than 10,000 schools where we put these thousands of content into a server and a Wi-Fi access point to the school. Then the students can come to the educational hotspot close to their houses and get connected to a cell phone that mostly of the families in Latin America, they have a cellular phone. Then they can use the cellular phone for the follow-up of content for students. Then trying to close this gap with Sugata Mitra thesis to create this computer in a whole environments. Then we have created more than 10,000 schools in Latin America. We're very far away still to close this gap. Then I think we need to create the public policies in the region to close this gap with technology, education, content, digital skills, STEAM, and all those capabilities in the region I think are important. And some other ministers of education in the region have gone through channel national TV. Panama has launched a program of national TV broadcasting. Mexico has done that. A lot of countries have been through or TV, open TV, or through a digital platform. Then I think we need to close the gap and making sure that we have the follow-up of the outcome of students during this environment, making the teachers, they have been forced, and we have been forced to jam into the digital gap because the pandemic. Probably we in the industry is easy for us to keep going on the Zoom or Teams or Google Meets or whatever we have. But for teachers was not easy to prepare the class, then how we can put them with digital content to deliver a class for the students. And on the other side, how to dominate a classroom where the students can lose the attention on this. And just to make a final comment, having a meeting with a Minister of Education, he was saying that this was the semester of the WhatsApp learning environments in Latin America. He has more than 120,000 teachers in that state, and more than 60,000 teachers were delivering classes through WhatsApp, creating WhatsApp groups, sending the students some materials and everything. Then I think the challenges that we have is how we close this gap and making sure that we have an ecosystem that is working, not just technology, but digital inclusion on connectivity, where connectivity is not going to be fixed soon. How we create these environments with thousands of content, and the students can have the same skills and capability in rural areas than in capitals. And then trying to really award the teachers' efforts with this kind of efforts that we're doing with Global Teacher Prize in Latin America, trying to award the teacher efforts. But I think creating the public policies not to deploy in Harvard, students know, because you have been coming back to your countries, working with governments, a lot of you. I think it's important not just to close the gap on digital inclusion devices in the countries, but also to making sure that we have a digital agenda for the country with a lot of content on it and organized on those environments. And with those kind of comments, I want to make in the closing here to open the Q&A, but I think it's very important that we come in an effort together to create and close this gap in Latin America, because it's the same effort that other territories and countries and continents are doing at this point, right? And then I think this kind of WhatsApp ubiquity to be connected to internet when you are, then you can deliver the keynotes or the answers and go back to the schools and sending back on that internet connectivity to the teacher. And I think we need to really create these environments and empower the teachers based on these efforts. And I think the good point is we have jumped, even if we don't want to jump into this digital gap. And then I think a lot of skills that the teachers have now, they didn't have it 4 or 5 months ago. Then I think it's time to get into the next level and really go into the personalized learning environments to really measure the students' advances in the future, right? And that's all. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you, Alessio, for your insights, and thank 3 of you. I had a couple questions for you, but I think I'm just going to ask one question and ask you guys to keep your answers short to maybe 2-3 minutes, so that we can open up the floor for questions from the participants, because I'm really interested in having them have a space to ask questions to you guys. So my question is, in your experience in the Latin American and Caribbean region, what are the biggest challenges that the governments and education systems are facing right now in terms of technological appropriation for students, for teachers, for parents, for stakeholders of the education systems in general, and the delivery of quality education, the securing of the delivery of quality education for students in the region? And in your opinion, how should we attend to these challenges? So I think we're going to go backwards now and start with Alessio, then Gaby, then Sindey. Okay?
Okay.
Alessio.
Okay, I think the biggest challenge is the digital skills for teachers, and I think it's important for them how we can support them with a new generation of students that were digital natives. And I think those students can help the teachers if the teachers really lose to be afraid of these digital environments. They can get support from even the students on this digital gap. But I think delivering those digital skills, because it's not the same to deliver a class in the form of the blackboard in the classroom, to deliver in a digital environment. But I think the biggest challenge is digital skills and organize digital content based on the Ministers of Education agenda for the countries. I think those are 2 gaps that we need to close. And that's the biggest challenge that I see with the broadband and connectivity issues that we have in the region. That's my main comment.
Okay, and how do you think we should tackle these challenges? Like, what's your take on how should we tackle them?
Yeah, we have been working on trying to create a pyramid program on teachers, that teachers can train another teachers, and also some students can help the teachers to deploy these skills. Then I think it's important to tackle the problem with students, school of teachers in the country. They are still delivering old methodologies of training. Then I think we need to tackle on the new generations of teachers coming to the floor in the classrooms. I think that's important. And trying to deploy this digital program with teachers where they can get trained, and then they need to pay back training another 5 teachers, and we can multiply this very fast. And we have started with more than 1 million teachers in Latin America deploying these digital skills, trying to close this gap during the last months, and putting a portal of digital content where the life of those teachers can be easier on the day-to-day. I think those 2 things can help them on this way.
Thanks, Alessio. Gaby, what's your take on this?
I'm 100% in agreement with Alessio. I really believe that we need to work on digital skills for the teacher, for the educators. And this is something that from the industry, the technology industry, we have been working during the last 10 years. The thing is that this time accelerate the time for this to happen, and at least for 10 years. And sometimes when we have the conversation with the governments, they are most worried, thinking about how they could give devices to the students. And we need to do it in parallel, students and professors and teachers. And maybe if you ask me, maybe first to the teacher to get the skills, and then the students in a short time of period, we need the thing to happen at the same time. But I believe that that's the big challenge we have in Latin America. And the other thing is connectivity, and maybe we can supply, replace the connectivity with the on-premise solution. I mean, when not having online the things, but having this maybe in a private network or something like that. But again, we need people and an ecosystem that it is partners, system integrators, everyone on the same mood and in the same table, talking the same language to make this thing happen. Because if we are only thinking about the students, all the other parts is not happening, and we are going to have gaps as we have today with the teachers. One thing that I like to mention is most of the teachers during these pandemic months were at home with a camera and a blackboard at the back, and delivering the classes in that way, like a video. The thing is, how can you engage the kids? I mean, the students on the other side. So with the tools that already the market has to engage them in terms of new ways of studying and learning, we need to use that. And again, this time and the next months would accelerate this a lot. Our conversations with the government, with ministries, are in that path. We are suggesting and we are sharing our best practices in that sense, with the experience of the countries or the provinces or states in some countries that are already doing that, to extend this across all Latin America.
Thank you, Gaby.
Hope it helps.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Sindey, what's your take on this?
Okay, the greatest challenges for education systems and governments are to reach all children and young people in Colombia without access to devices and the internet. To empower the media to reach them through multiple channels. In theory, I consider another challenge, and at the same time opportunity to connect from teachers, students, parents, schools, community, and education systems is necessary. And the greatest challenge lies in having materials and resources for all students at home, while empowering the inclusion of many children with disabilities, strengthening education for all from diversity, integrate parents into the teaching learning process, of course, enforce accessibility for all. And I consider it important to continue working on the articulation between initial, basic, secondary, and media education, of course, and university education is necessary. Thank you.
No, thank you. So we are now going to open up a space for Q&A from you guys, from the participants. I believe that we had a very interesting question from Anne Han first. Is that right, Ishita? Okay, so Anne, if you want to go ahead and ask the question yourself, or would you rather?
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. So I think that since I typed in my question, this has been addressed a little bit, but I still think it's relevant pointing out that, considering that Latin America is the most unequal region in the world, a lot of these tech solutions that are very interesting and very powerful in their own way aren't able to be accessed, period, by a lot of people, whether it's because of a lack of connectivity or a lack of digital skills or some combination of both. And so my question to all the panelists is, within your sphere of influence, do your projects address these structural gaps? And if so, I think it'd be interesting to understand how you're addressing those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
May I?
Go ahead, Gaby.
Okay, so regarding the skillings, we have a project, and in our conversations, we have 3 pillars. One is the connectivity, the other one is the digital inclusion, and the other one, because digital inclusion is maybe an old word or something, a concept that we are not talking since, I don't know, 5 years ago, but we are still in this process of digital inclusion in Latin America. And the other one is the connections. We have a project that is looking for all of this. The skilling not only for basic skillings, just to have people ready for the next step in the employability they will have in the future, or they will have maybe in a couple of months from now in a calendar year of school. We also have this pillar of connectivity, where we are working with governments in something that it is called white spaces. White spaces are some ranges where we are not using waves in the countries to transmit whatever, so we are working with them in that kind of project. I cannot say exactly what are the countries where we are in, because it is we don't have the goal for the countries to share that information, but we are on that. And the other thing is the inclusion regarding devices or telephones, or mobile phones as a device, just to be connected and all of that. Yes, we are in each of the countries in where we have presence or not. That is mostly all of the countries in Latin America supporting this. We are doing this also with Alessio. Alessio had been super active on this, and we are having these conversations. Again, it is not only using our tools, it is tackling all of the obstacles we have.
Yeah, I agree with Gaby, and I think it's important. We have been creating these kind of ecosystems in places like Amazonias in Brazil, then very remote areas where we can close this gap, bring these private digital educational networks, and then I think that's a way to go. We send the connectivity with a Wi-Fi access point, content preloaded in a system, then students with small devices can have a lot of impact on that. And also, I think on the 5G and everything that is coming in connectivity, some industries in Latin America have been going down in the price of cell phones. Some countries like Chile, for example, you can navigate in a digital national educational content for free with your cell phone, even if you don't have access to anything. You can go for free, like you have a social networking. Then I think it's important that some telcos have provided connectivity access for free in mobile phones to students into portal of education in the Ministry of Education of Latin America. Then I think everybody is doing some efforts. I think it's just a way to put the ecosystem together and tackle the problem as a whole in the industry. Microsoft, DELL, our competitors, Microsoft competitors. I think it's very important for everyone to put the finger on the table and help the countries to get out of the gap.
Okay, and we are creating resources to reach children without connectivity or devices. Devices, and we are working on a project we call EduCall, phone calls with teacher classes in all areas. We started by collecting cell phones that are not used and delivering them to many of our children and young people. We also joined forces with Colombian television and radio to reach through other media. this case in my country.
Okay. Thank you, Sindey. I think we have another question from Renata. Are you there, Renata? Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. I guess this is a question really, I think, to all three of you. The question is, what are the emerging opportunities that you're seeing for improving learning in general in Latin America post-COVID? Thanks.
I think the opportunity is huge, Renata. As I said, some teachers were very afraid of technology. With this COVID, we don't have any other option at this point, if not this, to make this remote learning and this kind of environments, mixed environments. And I think the opportunities that teachers have closed this gap because everybody has been forced to go and swim, right, into the digital gap. Then we are going to have a smaller gap on this period after the COVID is done. I hope so. That is very soon. And the second piece is, with this, we have put in the country's agendas that it's very important to have a personalized learning environment where they can really know what the students are going and improving. Then if they are buying devices and technology and putting hundreds of billions of dollars in devices in Latin America, they put billions of dollars in devices, but they don't put tens of millions of dollars in a digital platform to connect the students with the content and make sure that everybody is measuring how they are improving and also helping the teachers to close this gap. Then I think it's important on this period to say, okay, you have closed the gap putting devices, how you close the gap putting these platforms and delivering the skills to the teachers, because everybody is now going to be aware of this kind of environment can come in the future anytime in a mixed environment educational way. Then I think that the opportunity is huge because we have closed the gap in a forced way. And I think that's going to pay back to the region if we take advantage of these months of uncertainty.
I would like to add that we are not closing the gap yet. We are in that path of closing the gap. And our trends are saying that we are doing in 6 months what we have been done in 2 years. So I think it is good, the acceleration we have in this sense, not good what has been happening, but for sure the opportunity is there. I mean, to accelerate the remote learning and not only thinking about the kids in primary school, just thinking about maybe higher school when you want to do something and you cannot go to be present in that room, and maybe you can take that opportunity of learning, keep on learning digitally, I mean, remotely. So I believe that is another kind of opportunity that we can take from this. And then 100% in agreement with Alessio. Nothing to add.
Excellent.
In my country, enhance the connectivity of schools, enhance teacher training in various ICT tools, and enforce the participation of parents in teaching process learning. Of course, it is ideal to expand the connectivity and the use of devices of all our public school students. And finally, is my participation.
Thank you. So we have just a couple more minutes. So as a final takeaway, I would like to ask each and every one of you to give us a short 30-second answer on this question. I believe very much in what And said about how the Latin America and Caribbean region is the most unequal region in the world, and to address these issues of IT appropriation in the region, we should address it as a fight against poverty, a fight against the lack of opportunities in all areas, social, not just education. So how do you see the path forward in providing and using information technologies to provide better opportunities to people in general, not just education? So A very short answer from each and every one of you would be greatly appreciated.
And I think the opportunity. Go ahead, Gaby.
Go, sorry, Alessio. Sorry, go.
No, I think just it's a way to leapfrog on the gaps that we have in Latin America. We can see it as a threat, as an opportunity. Then I think I want to see this as an opportunity to say, okay, don't be afraid, close the gap, and make sure that we trigger the education as the way to change and reduce poverty in Latin America, because I think it's the only way to really close the gap as soon as possible. Education, education, education.
Yeah, I believe that it is a must to improve in education and the opportunities, the equal opportunities of everyone to the access to the education. Then we can discuss if it is remotely or if it is in presence. And I believe we have the must, the obligation, the urgency as industry to support the governments in letting them know and supporting whatever their plans they have to make this thing happen as soon as possible. And again, it is a decision that the governments need to take, and we as industry, as I said, as citizens need to support.
This opportunity is to connect from teachers, students, parents, school, community, and education system. It's a great opportunity in this world.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sindey. Thank you, Alessio. Thank you, Gaby. You have been wonderful. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your time to discuss this issue with you. I'm going to invite you to the keynote address with Andrea Schleicher next, and thank all of you. Thank you, Ishita. Thank you, Pierce. Thank you, Renata. Thank you, Anne, Helen, Maung, Isamar. Thank all of you. Thank all of the guys who joined us, and thank Envoys for organizing this wonderful conference for all of us. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
You have the emails on the chat. Thank you.